Humans have had a close relationship with animals for thousands of years. Scientists agree the domestic dog has been a trusted pet for around 15,000 years. And cats became part of the household from 10,000 years ago. And now it's estimated there are at least 600 million pet cats in the world. Exotic pets have also been kept for thousands of years. It's well documented that the Egyptians kept baboons as pets, and exotic animals kept in the home feature in many ancient texts. In modern times, the keeping of exotic pets has increased. A staggering statistic is that there are more tigers in the US alone than there are in the wild. Animal owners truly believe they are playing a role in preserving the numbers of exotic animals. But on the other side of the debate, there are those who believe it is a cruel practice to keep any animals in captivity. This series explores the issues from both sides, from those who know the dangers but see the benefits, to others who condemn the keeping of exotic pets. Their stories follow. Marc Colhorst knows his animals. Owner of the traveling zoo, Marc's Ark, and with over 40 species living on his property, he really is a modern-day Noah. From horses to ducks, rabbits to frogs, Marc is an expert on all things cute and cuddly. But Marc also has a curiosity for the dangerous side of animal handling. His pride and joy are some of the world's most hostile predators.
I'm gonna be getting out Ivy. Ivy is the larger of my two alligators. Really, quite honestly, not knowing what her type of temperament is, and she's quite different than any others that I've ever had. She is not friendly. This is not a normal pet. You guys might want to stand back because she's going to get an avalanche of water. And the way she's presenting right here, she can take a hold of this and bust it easily. I go through a lot of these. You might ask why I do this. And when she is taped, she calms right down. She kind of knows this is a job. What I'm trying to do is get her tail so that I have control. There we go. That's really good. And then I can get her from behind. She is not happy. This is actually easier than it usually goes with her. So once I control her tail and I've got the back of her head, then I can just press her firmly, but not harming her, down, and then her bite power is very powerful on the way down, but not up. Electrical tape only will tape against itself and not on her, so it doesn't pull her skin. She can breathe perfectly fine. And once I have her subdued like this, she can't bite, and she's really of no danger unless she decides she wanted to use her tail. I would feel completely confident in letting a very small child hold her now. And a lot of people are worried about the claws. The nails, they're not very sharp actually, and they really don't serve a whole lot of purpose. They do dig in the mud.
At 4 years old, Ivy's still relatively small. But Marc knows the dangers she will pose once she reaches adulthood. It is likely she will grow to 9 feet long and weigh up to 250 pounds. Once she reaches 5 feet, she will be classified as a Class 3 wild animal, and Marc will need to obtain a permit to keep her.
Alligators are probably, in my opinion, one of the smarter reptiles. They definitely have anger. She has almost got my fingers. She has got me across the back with her tail. Even for this size, it would feel like somebody taking a very broad belt across your back and just drive it right back.
Exclusively found across America's southeast, alligators are some of the most menacing predators in the United States. Growing up to 15 feet and reaching 1,000 pounds, this is not a creature you want to run into unprepared.
I've never had dogs or cats when I was a kid. My parents were very tolerant, and I always had exotics. One of my first pets was a spectacled caiman. It was nasty, evil. I really liked it. My dad enjoyed it too. They're fascinating. They're smart, strong. This type of animal's been around longer than dinosaurs. It's a tricky thing to call this a pet. I've known people that have had 12-foot alligators literally in their basement in the large city of Fort Wayne near here with their toddler child that jumps on its back and played with it and pet it. And the animal had free reign of the basement and a pond, a pool. Now that's a bit extreme for me. That won't ever happen. My child never goes near this animal unless it's in my hands and it's secured. This animal can be dangerous.
Encounters between humans and alligators are on the increase in the United States. Worldwide, it's estimated that 1,000 people die every year as a result of crocodilian attacks.
I have seen her take raw chicken legs and take that bone and just crunch it in half. I've been bitten by another alligator before, and I thought I was going to lose my thumb. It was an alligator that was about a foot longer than this that I had. And I was in a hurry and a rush to go to a show. And even though he didn't have a temperament like this, he didn't like that hurried pace. He got a hold of my thumb, and the next thing I thought was, there goes my thumb. And he pressed down and bit down so hard it felt like, I can't imagine the pressure. I thought my thumb was gone.
Alligators' teeth break off easily, and Marc's attack left him with a tooth lodged in his hand. They have the strongest bite pressure relative to size of any crocodilian, and Marc was lucky to escape further harm while at the mercy of this wild creature.
A full-size alligator can break the femur of a cow. It's substantial. It's incredibly strong. People buy them as a novelty. These are people that they decide they want to get a pet without ever having experience with any kind of exotic animals. They buy it, it's dangerous. They thought it was a novelty. They thought it was going to be cool. It was going to be really neat. And they learn that, it's not a pet. That being said, I know my animals. I use these animals a lot for 11 years. This is a safe animal that I would never, ever, in any circumstances, ever let anybody get injured.
While Marc is highly conscientious of his animals, unfortunately, the same cannot be said for all exotic pet owners. Juan Stewart is the Chief Veterinary Officer and National Director of American Humane Hollywood. Juan has spent many years working in animal shelters and is a strong advocate for the welfare and protection of both domesticated and wild animals.
These reptiles, these birds, these small exotics, they require so much expertise, it would blow your mind. You get a small boa at your pet store and it's all of 18 inches. Well, one day that thing, if you feed it right and take care of it, it's gonna be, 8, 10, 15 feet potentially, and then what do? I mean, they get discarded. And that's not fair for the animal. They can become wild, vicious, dangerous animals.
Years spent dealing with these crocodilians means Marc has experienced firsthand the wild nature of these highly powerful animals.
Absolutely, this is a predator. You would not believe what this thing is capable of when it eats. I prefer to feed dead food when there's a situation where I have to feed live. 180 degrees different in their behavior. They are unbelievably fast, unbelievably violent. When you hear them, killing their prey, and you hear the bones crunch, there's no doubt about it. You just hear it. It's and they want to kill it as quick as possible. They're very efficient, very efficient.
When dealing with an alligator, as with any wild predator, caution is key. Returning the alligator to its cage can be a particularly difficult task, and Marc approaches it with precision and care.
The power is in her hip and her tail. So between my legs here, it's the best way I found to do it. And then I have to hold her very securely because she'll do that. And so she knows she's getting put away, and I've got to be very quick and careful with her because sometimes she'll come back at me. She's got a posture right now that's an aggressive posture. She's checking things out. She's kind of curious. And she's okay now. She's calmed down. She's gonna probably just go right back up on her platform. She knows everything's done.
Like many exotic enthusiasts, one predator is not enough to satisfy Marc's desire for the dangerous and mysterious.
This is a Colombian red-tailed boa. She's about 7, 8 years old. Her name is Rocky Balboa. They can vary a lot in their color. She has bronze. This is one of South America's largest snakes, the green anaconda being the bigger.
As an arboreal snake, Colombian red-tailed boas are natively found living in the treetops. They have the fastest strike of any snake and can easily catch monkeys and birds out of trees.
She's almost 8 feet long. She's strong enough that she could constrict enough to keep my chest from expanding to take in breath. So it's a very, very powerful snake.
Even as a trained animal handler, Marc is not immune to the power of these highly dangerous snakes. Caught alone and unaware, he experienced their predatory nature and powerful grasp.
I have had incidents before. When I was a zookeeper, I had a much larger one than this that didn't want to go back in its cage. And the snake did not want to let me go. It did not want to go back in the cage. And I struggled with the snake for well over an hour. I could not get to my radio. I was able to get the upper hand on it. I think I just literally had more energy than it did. And I was able to literally take it off like a pair of pants and slide it down. But when I was done, I can't remember, but only a few other times where I was so exhausted in my life. These are the strongest animals, and their musculature and the way they hold on is different than anything else. I've been bitten by large snakes like this before, and they're so fast that you don't even realize that you're bitten at first because it's so quick that even your nerve endings don't fire right. Honestly, you think, was I just bitten? And then you realize that you've got 60, 70 tooth marks in your arm from a snake like this, and it's a ½ inch deep. It bleeds for quite a long time before your blood clots, and it does hurt. Imagine having 60 hypodermics all in one short, small area. This is not a domesticated or tame animal. You never know when you're gonna have a bad day with that animal. You just have to know the animal. I can kind of tell with my animals when they're not feeling good or anything. She's doing fine. She's having a great time. If she were not, she would be closed up and tight.
Perhaps the most widely feared of Marc's collection is his tarantula. While its venom won't kill you, the tarantula's razor-sharp fangs and large hairy body make it infamous around the world.
I don't know that I'm gonna be holding her. She just bit into this. And let me tell you what, it was quite something. She just dug her fangs right in that wood. I've held her before, but boy, she just drove them right in. This is a Chilean rose hair tarantula, a very common tarantula available in pet stores. They typically have a reputation as being a really calm spider. This is a female. Females can live a lot longer than males, up to 30 years. Males are short, 7 to 9 years. And I've never been bitten by a tarantula. Don't ever want to. She has ½ inch fangs. The venom, though, is described as being relatively benign. The bite is what hurts. I mean, having ½ inch fangs, 2 of them. And spiders are really soft, but what they do when they bite is they grab really powerful, and they bite and let go. That powerful grab is tremendous. Probably the snake and the spiders are the most fearful animals that I have, that I show. I am not a cat person, a wild cat person, small or large cat, and I'm not a primate person. I am completely against those type of animals. Big cats, primates, they're too smart for their own good, and they're dealing with an animal that matures like a human being, except they're a wild animal. And so when something turns 15 and their testosterone blooms 4 times greater than a human being in an animal that's only 30 or 40 pounds, and you yank the chain around the neck of that animal one too many times and that animal wants to be dominant in a troop, you're in trouble. I worked with primates too long, and they definitely are not a pet. This is something you can control, you can take care of. Primates are not something for everybody, for anybody. Now, normally I would handle spiders a lot easier, come more comfortable in this, but she's, like I said, I'm a little more unfamiliar with her. This is not something I've done many times with her. These aren't for everybody, no, no, definitely not.
I can go in the cage with all the animals out here. The question is, can I come back out of the cage?
When driving through rural Indiana, there are many sounds you would expect to hear. What may surprise you is the roar of a mighty tiger. Opened in 1991 by Indiana local Joe Taft, the Exotic Feline Rescue Center is a refuge for the abandoned and the abused. Home to over 200 exotic cats across 9 different species. Joe's long-held interest in exotic cats began in his youth.
I started with cats in the mid-'60s. I bought an ocelot as a pet for absolutely no good reason. After the ocelot, I had a leopard that I lived with for 19 years, and I lived with her. I mean, she was a pet. She had a big outside enclosure, but she had 3 rooms in the house, and she had the run of my house most of the time. She slept in my bed at night her whole life. And during the winter, she was under the covers with her head out in the pillow. During the summer, she was over on the couch.
Joe's attitude towards pet ownership changed after witnessing the mistreatment many of these creatures face in captivity.
What we do here puts us in contact with the 98% of the people who have these animals who shouldn't. And very seldom are we in contact with those 2% or maybe even 1% of people who have them that do a good job.
In the United States, laws concerning exotic pet ownership are handled at a state level. Indiana laws are considered relatively lenient compared to other states, requiring little more than a permit for exotic pet ownership. Despite this, many owners don't bother with a permit, instead purchasing animals illegally from breeders online.
You could find these animals on the internet, and you could get them for $500 or $1,000. And there wasn't much regulation about their interstate movement. Now there are new federal laws in effect that clamp down on the interstate movement of big cats in the pet market. Unfortunately, a USDA permit is easy to come by, and if you have a USDA permit, then you can move the cats back and forth across state lines. On the other hand, there cannot be any money involved in those movements. And frankly, you know that most of the exchanges involving these animals, there is money involved.
All of the cats at the center are rescues, arriving from zoos, circuses, breeders, and pet owners around the country. Joe has made it his mission to rescue ill-treated felines and educate the public about these beautiful and mysterious animals.
A lot of these cats come here poorly nourished. You get an animal like this in a little cage and upset, and he snaps at something, they'll break their teeth off. So cats would come to us with big grooves cut in their teeth right at the base, and then it wouldn't take a lot of impact with something just to snap those teeth off. Although I've certainly seen upset tigers hit steel bars and teeth just break.
Many of Joe's rescues arrive in cages not suitable for their size. With over 25 years on the job, Joe has seen firsthand how mistreatment can have long-term physical and psychological effects on these majestic creatures.
These were circus lions. When the guy that owned these retired from the circus, he wheeled 9 big cats into his barn in circus wheel cages, and that's where they spent the next 10 years. 6 years into that, he bought another tiger and put her in a 5x7 cage, and she lived in that for 4 years in that barn. Finally, the USDA decided that it was time to quit patting this guy in the head, and they called me one morning and said, "We have 10 big cats up here. We want you to take 8 of them and crate the other 2 for another facility." We did it the next day in a blizzard, 2.5 feet of snow. These guys could barely walk when they got here. They were here for a month before they first tried to run, and then they just fell over. The guy that had these lions certainly didn't give a damn about them. But they're doing much better now.
It's no fault of Joe's that some of his animals arrive displaying the physical scars of previous neglect.
Zozo. She walks in a circle because for 4 years she was in a cage that was 5 foot by 7 foot. And she didn't have the ability to walk anywhere else.
Years of mistreatment can also have significant behavioral effects on the predator, with many of the felines arriving depressed, anxious, and overly aggressive.
I don't do things that would make me afraid. You know, after working with big cats for over 50 years, I know the things that people do that are scary. And one of my serious goals is to be able to do this again tomorrow. So you can't do that if they hurt you. Huh, come here. Hi. I mean, she's as sweet as can be, but she is full of energy, and she would certainly break me.
Even with the protection of a fence, Joe knows never to let your guard down around these vicious predators, especially when they're hungry.
The oldest tiger that's ever been here was 26 when she died. And sometimes we blame that on what she ate before she came here, which was a 17-year-old girl. Court documents described the tigers as, quote, extraordinarily hungry, unquote. We didn't get them for 2 years after the incident, and they were still extraordinarily hungry. They were all part of a traveling animal show, and the guy had jury-rigged some cages in a barn so he could go out and party for the winter, and left them in the care of a young girl who did not have a reliable source of food, and they hadn't been fed at all for 4 days. And she went in the barn and took her teenage friend in with her. But the court transcripts say that the keeper girl, who didn't have the experience to be a keeper to begin with, went up to the cage where these hungry tigers were with a hose to give them water, turned her back to talk to her friend, and you saw what happened when I turned my back on, only these guys were hungry. And the tigers reached out and grabbed her and pulled her back to the fence. And her teenage friend ran up to try and save her, and they grabbed her friend's arm and pulled it off and ran off and ate it, and the girl died on the floor.
Sadly, this shocking attack is not an isolated incident. Since 1990, more than 300 dangerous events involving big cats have occurred, resulting in the deaths of 4 children and 16 adults. The staff at the rescue center are highly trained and well aware of the risks associated with working with such a powerful animal. Regardless of the situation, these are dangerous predators.
I wouldn't want to go in there and let her sit in my lap. She would definitely take your fingers off as a food source. You can see she's not interested in that much anymore. Where did you get that big belly? You're not a skinny little girl anymore, are you? No.
Since opening the rescue center, Joe and his team have saved countless big cats from all around the country and have had their fair share of close calls. Bruises, scratches, and broken bones are all part of the job when working with some of the world's most formidable predators. However, these big cats are not Joe's only threat. His work also receives public backlash.
This tiger is one of 4 tigers that we took out of downtown Gary, Indiana. This was a federal seizure, and the USDA called us the day before we were supposed to take these cats and said, we're afraid to be in this neighborhood in the afternoon. Why don't you come up and spend the night in a neighboring town, and we'll go in first thing in the morning and take them. Well, the state police showed up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they put yellow crime scene tape around the place. We got there 10 minutes later, and there were probably 100 people on the streets ready to throw beer bottles at us. So it was an interesting morning. He had 3 of them in the back room of his tattoo parlor, and this one was out in the parking lot behind the tattoo parlor. Look at his claws now. See those claws? Children. These guys came here when they were 6 months old. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service asked us to go to New York and take a leopard, which we did. And as we took the leopard, they told the guy, we're not going to prosecute on this, don't do it again. He must have been on the phone buying these leopards before we got all the way out of his driveway. And 6 months later, after his wife escaped from being chained and beaten in the basement stairs, she went to the police, and the police came back and found 2 leopards and 4 kids. So we went out and got these 2 leopards.
But for Joe and his team, the risks are worth it. To see these magnificent, powerful creatures given a second chance at life.
This tiger came from Branson, Missouri, where he was in a magic theater, where they cleaned his cage every day with bleach. Didn't particularly bother to rinse the bleach off.
In many cases, the effects of long-term neglect continue to manifest themselves even years later.
He had bleach burns on all of his feet. He could barely stand up. See how he still holds that 1 foot up?
Sebastian the tiger also arrived in a poor condition. A detached retina meant he was in constant pain and in need of an urgent operation. He is just one of 25 of Joe's rescued tigers that have required surgery on their eyes. While Joe dedicates his time and money to providing medical attention to those animals who need it, fortunately, not all of them arrive badly neglected. One of Joe's charges still has a special place in the heart of one Ohio State trooper and his wife.
She came from an Ohio State trooper who had encountered her as a sick and injured cub. And then he took her home, and he and his wife nursed this animal back to health and kept her for 9 years. Ohio was one of the states that had no regulations about the keeping of wild animals. And then Ohio passed some incredibly knee-jerk regulations. And as a result of those regulations, this state patrolman was forced to give this animal up.
On October 18, 2011, Ohio resident Terry Thompson let loose his vast collection of exotic animals in the streets of Zanesville. 56 animals, including black bears, mountain lions, Bengal tigers, wolves, and leopards roam the streets, terrifying residents. Shortly after, state legislation was changed, making the private ownership of wild animals and restricted snakes increasingly difficult.
Even before I came into the legislature, there were some issues at hand with wild animals. You know, they got talked about, but then after a couple months, it kind of went away. We wanted to make more than just a motion with this. We wanted to actually implement something and get something moving. And when we looked at this legislation, we wanted to be different than any other state. Everyone said, well, look at the other states and look what they're doing around you. We didn't want to do it that way. We wanted to make this Ohio, and we were going to stand and make it Ohio law. And that's how we wanted to do it. We didn't want to base any of the legislation off what other states were doing.
We went over to get the cat. He lived way out in the country. We had a hard time finding him. When we finally found the house, there was a state police car out in front, and I thought, we're too late, there's been trouble. But as it turned out, he was the owner. Of all the cats that we have here that had been privately owned, this officer and his wife are the only people who come to visit, and they come every few months. Considering the number of cougars in this country, the number of people who are hurt or killed by cougars is minuscule. You have to really trigger one of these animals to come after you. Most people that are attacked by cougars don't know there's a cougar there. I mean, if you're jogging down a mountain trail or mountain biking, you can go by one and trigger all of their chase instincts, and they will chase you.
While many of these owners have good intentions, according to Joe, a lack of understanding about how to properly care for the wild animals often results in mistreatment and neglect.
You know, there are people who have these animals, people in private hands, who take incredibly good care of them. And I'm not against that. I'm against poor care. I'm against incompetent ownership. Indiana, I think, has some pretty reasonable state regulations. If you can acquire one of these animals legally and you can jump through some hoops, you can get a permit to keep one in Indiana. So, you know, in that regard, we're certainly not in favor of seeing them, you know, for sale in your local pet store. But there are people that take good care of them, and I'm not in favor of seeing them taken away from them either. We're making a difference for one animal at a time. We're not making a political statement. We're not saying that people should or should not have these animals. We're saying that this is an animal who is in trouble. This is an animal that has been mistreated. This is an animal whose life is endangered. And we will step forward and do what we can do to save that animal. You know, we will go wherever they are to get them. We will bring them back here. We will make whatever medical technology is at our disposal available to them, and we will see that they have a safe place to stay for the rest of their life.
You will get hurt. Are they gonna kill you? No, they're not gonna kill you, but they're gonna hurt you. They will scratch you up pretty bad.
Val Mahler is crazy about bobcats. Since opening the National Bobcat Rescue and Research Center in 2008, her life has been devoted to protecting and studying the often misunderstood predator.
I've worked in the animal business my entire life. I've been a wildlife biologist, moved out here to do something completely different and fell into bobcats because that was what was booming at the time that there was no one else out here. I have not met a more intelligent, compassionate, emotional animal in my entire life. Bobcats, in comparison to their body size, have the largest brain of any of the felines. It doesn't matter if it's wild or if it's one that's been raised in captivity. They all have this deep emotional bond with each other or with their human people. If they're a pet, they develop a deep emotional bond.
Val's bobcats have developed this bond and show their affection by rubbing their glands on her and marking their scent.
You're gonna squish me. You're gonna squish me.
Headbutting and mouth-to-mouth contact are also believed to be the ultimate displays of affection.
You're fat. You're fat boy. No.
Normally the difference in the marking and the affection, she will rub her head up against like this. This is more of affection, and then she'll lick my nose a lot and hold it with her teeth. Oh, no.
Oh, no. That's Dalton. That's Dalton, isn't it? I know. Oh, I know. I know.
Despite their friendly appearance, Val knows that the best place for these predators is out in the wild.
Bobcats really do need to live in the wild. The reality is a bobcat is a wild cat, F0, they are wild. And so to put a wild animal, even if it's affectionate, even if it loves you as a cub, to put it into a pet environment is really just, it's just not, I don't know, but it's not realistic. They are going to tear your house up. They can't be a house pet. If you are going to keep them as a pet, which we never condone, they need to be kept in large cages. You need to have the funding to be able to feed them every day. They're an obligate carnivore. They have to be fed meat. If you go to the grocery store and buy food, you have to use supplements to supplement that so it gives them the appropriate minerals and vitamins. So understanding what kind of animal they are, what the responsibility is to them as an emotional animal, that you cannot just leave, you can't go on a vacation and leave them behind.
Val's bobcats remain highly territorial, and their unpredictable and ultimately wild nature make even the calmest of bobcats a dangerous choice of pet.
Bobcats can be territorial. They can become food aggressive. When they have food that they want, that they think you might get from them, or when they have your phone or your keys and you want them, they're gonna hurt you. They have the ability to hurt. Oh, I'm so sorry. You okay?
That startled me.
Yeah.
Even our camera crew fell prey to these wild animals' advances.
If you're down at the same level with them, or if they're up at eye level on a fence, the first thing they're gonna do is jump at you, and they will pat you really quickly with their feet. They just go pop, 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 and your face will bleed a lot. So it's a warning. If you cross that line a second time, then that's when they use teeth, and teeth is where that begins to get more dangerous.
Oh, it's my nose.
It's my nose. I love them.
Bobcats have been known to attack household pets, including rabbits, cats, and dogs.
You're a great hairdresser.
Even animal lover Val, who has around 50 animals living in her house, won't let the cats roam freely.
I would absolutely not keep a bobcat running around my house. To me, that would be insane. I have over 70 on the property. I have my choice of every personality and every, the extremes, one end to the other, from the sweetest to the craziest. And there's not one on this property that I would comfortably put into my house.
Bobcats are nocturnal and primarily hunt under the cover of night. With a diet consisting of small and medium-sized mammals, this fierce predator will first stalk its prey before striking with razor-sharp precision. cutting the spinal cord of its unsuspecting victim. Val considers that the urbanization of traditional rural areas has, in fact, provided an almost ideal hunting ground for the bobcat. The planting of domestic shrubs, trees, and lawns has increased rabbit, bird, mice, and squirrel populations, all of which are the perfect bobcat prey. Bobcats are also known to kill prey much bigger than themselves, and while they often hunt by stealth, they can deliver a death blow with a leaping pounce that can cover 10 feet.
Cats, too. What are you doing? He wants the toy.
Their reputation for being vicious and predatory hunters has made bobcat trapping commonplace in the United States.
As we know, their environment is dwindling. They're preyed upon, they're killed. So it's not the most friendly place for them outside of the borders or the safe walls of private ownership or animal company ownership.
Bobcats are common throughout North America and are found in a range of diverse habitats. They adapt well to many different living conditions and can be found in forests, swamps, and deserts. In the last 10 years, their urban population has also increased significantly.
When we talk about an urban bobcat, we're talking about an animal that has adapted to live in the urban environment. There are 12 and questionably 13 subspecies of bobcats. The science is still outstanding on it. The smallest of the subspecies are down here south in Texas along the southern borders and in Mexico. And as you go north, they get larger. We have been doing the science on bobcats here for 20 years. We have learned more about them in the past 20 years, probably than anybody has ever known about them. A lot of interesting things going on, particularly, again, with the urban bobcats, because they're almost a new species. They're a completely different animal than the rural bobcats.
I can't stand it. There's not like other cats. I know.
It's a matriarchal society in the urban environment. The girls are in charge. The boys generally are really submissive to them. When you see two bobcats fighting, it's largely the females.
Bobcats live a solitary lifestyle, only interacting with others of their kind during breeding season each winter. They are territorial, and run-ins at the wrong time of year are often violent. Even bobcats that have become pets remain stealthy hunters and premeditate every move they make. Val is taking a risk every time she interacts with these highly intelligent hunters. Yet she wants nothing more than to see the bobcat population thrive and survive.
Yes, there are lots of bobcats in America today. There are. And in 20 years, I think there's every likelihood that we could lose all of them due to inbreeding and genetic issues and disease, and it could take out both the urban and the rural cats. So I think that our work here is important, understanding them before this happens, and being ready for it when it does happen is going to be a very important part of what we do.
There are 48 animals that we had to put down. Those animals included 1 wolf, 6 black bears, 2 grizzly bears, 9 male lions, 8 lionesses, 1 baboon, 3 mountain lions, and 18 tigers.
I remember it all happening on a Wednesday evening at about 10 till 7 is when I received the first phone call. We became international news by the next morning.
It was just a disaster waiting to happen.
Zanesville is a sleepy town in Muskingum County, Ohio, with a population of just over 25,000 people. Until 2011, Zanesville was best known for its Y Bridge and many beautiful parks. It's one of the last places in the world you would expect to find an exotic pet owner with so many animals. But on one fateful day, the worst example of exotic pet ownership brought Zanesville to the attention of the world.
Zanesville's a very small, agricultural, very family-oriented community. Everybody knows everybody, and everybody knows what everybody's doing. It's a small town.
One of these small town residents was lifelong inhabitant Terry Thompson, a decorated Vietnam War veteran whose main role had been as a machine gunner on a Huey helicopter. His wife, Marion, was an avid horse rider and a local school teacher. Many locals knew the Thompsons kept exotic animals, but Terry was better known as the man who flew a light plane under the Wye Bridge. A notorious hoarder whose property was scattered with old cars and a dangerous mix of guns and wild exotic animals. Terry had drawn attention to himself many times over the years with his unusual behavior. Local police sergeant Todd Knavel has vivid recollections of Terry Thompson.
We had dealt with him off and on. He had just been released from prison just a few days before this incident on a firearms charge. We had dealt with him in the past also about the animals, just checking on their welfare and the safety of the public as far as the containment systems that he provided them and such. He had several animals then, 70-some, I believe. He had tigers, he had lions, he had black bears, he had grizzly bears. He had different apes. One time, he had camels, numerous horses. There was just animals everywhere. In the garage, there was a couple of tiger cages. There was a bedroom where a mountain lion, I think, lived. There was monkeys in the basement in a cage. Yeah, Terry was different. Terry always kind of pushed the envelope, but Terry was Terry. He was never really disrespectful to me or anything. I was always concerned that either Terry or Marion would be attacked by the animals. I realized they had a good rapport with the animals, but they're still wild animals, and something would trigger them. I figured maybe someday we would go up there and find one of them severely injured or killed.
The sergeant's fear was realized on the evening of October 18, 2011. Terry's notoriety was about to extend beyond the small community of Zanesville. As the day drew to a close, it is believed that he cut open the cages of more than 50 of his wild animals, setting them free before taking his own life. Senator Troy Balderson was born and bred in Zanesville and had been a member of the Ohio House of Representatives since 2009. This incident was a trigger for him to amend the legislation surrounding exotic pet ownership in Ohio.
About a mile down the road that evening, there was a tournament soccer game going on. There could have been a lot of tragedy, and there wasn't. For the most part, no one was injured. That was one of the biggest accomplishments that I feel that came out of the situation.
The next thing I saw was this black figure. It turned out it was a bear.
Sam Kopchak is a retired school teacher and lived next door to Terry. That evening, he was out in his own yard attending his own horse, Red, when he saw Terry's horses acting strangely.
I saw the horses that were over there. There's probably about 60 horses I estimate that they had. They were going around a circle. And I said, well, they're not supposed to do that. Something's going on, you know.
Then Sam saw something even more out of the ordinary.
I actually got Red up there by the corner. We walked down through here, and I just felt like something was looking at me, and I kind of turned to the left, and big male African lion, he came down. This is about the spot he was sitting. He just sat down right there, and just kind of, like that. And I just kept on going, and I never looked back till I got down to the white fence with my barn. And then after I was down by my barn, he was pacing back and forth on the fence. As you can see, this is like a 7-strand, not a barbed wire, just a smooth wire. And if he wanted to leap over that, he was big enough that he could have leaped over that fence.
What Sam soon realized was that the lion was just the beginning of what was about to unfold.
So I actually saw like 6 animals. The original bear, and then the lion, the male lion, and the female lion, and another bear, and the wolf went by, and the tigers.
Sheriff's office.
Yeah, I think I just seen one. It looked like a jaguar or a wolf or something.
I received a call that some of the animals were out. We weren't sure to the extent of the situation, but I was requested to come to the scene. When we arrived, we were advised by one of the patrol sergeants that he had been up in the compound area looking for Terrier Marion and had seen a body laying out in a field. That was our first priority, determine who it was and if they were injured or deceased. We were first approached by, I believe it was 2 tigers come out of a barn towards us, and as they rushed the truck, we were forced to dispatch them. Then we arrived in the area of where the body was, and it was quite apparent whoever it was deceased. There was a white tiger chewing on him. About that time, we were advised that there was 2 cats ready to exit the compound area on the south side of the property, so we had to go over there and dispatch those animals. I didn't know how many were out, but once we got up there, I had made contact with the sheriff that appeared that everything had been turned loose. And I mean, there was bears, there was tigers, there's lions running everywhere. It was a huge concern because it was later in the evening. You know, if it got dark, the only thing securing that property is just a regular barbed wire fence like you would have for cattle or whatever. You know, these animals would have easily cleared that, and in a short time they'd have been in populated areas and injuring, you know, humans. There was some that had escaped the perimeter, but we had set up officers along the perimeter to contain that. I discussed with the sheriff what our situation was. There was no other option except to dispatch the animals. We started engaging the animals at different distances. Some were shot 30 to 50, 70 yards away, but then it came to where we had to go to the barn areas and that because they were in there. And yeah, we had one lioness come at us. We ended up having to shoot her, and she was stopped probably 3 feet from us when she finally went down. Most of us had AR-15 shooting the .223 round. I was concerned that maybe there wasn't enough power, but after we engaged a few animals and saw that, you know, the rifle was doing its job, then I felt a little better that, you know, we could be safe. It was a coordinated effort to try to keep everything safe and contained.
Sam became an unwitting bystander to a grisly scene.
I saw the deputies pull in, and my first thing was, well, there's going to take more than 2 deputies to take care of this, because if all those animals are out. And I saw a truck, and there was several, probably 4 deputies on the back with their guns, and they drove back there. And within a few minutes, I could hear shooting. It just sounded like a big fireworks display. It just kept on. It seemed like it went on forever. I saw them going across the field, just like hunters, you know, with a gap between them with their guns. 49 animals that they killed, and 1 missing, and 6 that were in the house. So it's 56 total animals that were there.
It was quickly determined that it would have been impossible to control all these wild animals using tranquilizers. And the decision to use live ammunition undoubtedly saved human lives.
To the best of my knowledge, there was 1 tiger left, and the veterinarian there, I think her name was Wolf, she went over and got a perfect shot with a tranquilizer, hitting perfectly where she wanted to. I mean, she, I guess, made the determination how much to give him, you know, how big he was. And he was in the weeds and so forth, and he come immediately charging out of there, and if the deputies weren't there, he'd have probably got her. They had to shoot it. When it comes down to a situation like that, I realize you know, the animals have rights, but humans have more. And you couldn't justify risking human life for the animals. They had to be somewhat scared. They were out of their containment systems, running loose. You just didn't know how they were going to react. You could kind of surmise that he had let them go. But it wasn't until, you know, the investigation was completed later, we knew that's what had happened. You know, even if you'd found them in some of their containment systems, he cut the fences so that you couldn't recontain them. I'm glad it turned out that no one got hurt. To have that many animals loose, we were just very lucky that we caught it when we did. You're not ready for something like that. We had to deal with what we had to do, and that's why I think they've come out with legislation on this kind of practice. It's not feasible. Safety for the public or for the animals.
Immediately following the incident, Ohio ultimately banned the ownership of exotic animals and their transportation across state lines.
We don't want to see these animals lose their lives over something like this. They are wild. I mean, these animals are not domesticated. They are wild animals. That's what I kept trying to focus on. That's what I did focus on when we did this legislation. They're wild. We knew something needed to be done. The administration knew that something needed to be done, and we had to stand up and do the right thing for the state of Ohio. And that's what, I had to make that decision also. Challenging as I knew it was going to be. I knew there was going to be a lot of negative feedback from taking on a piece of legislation like this. Before I started doing this legislation, I did travel the state of Ohio and going to sanctuaries that, that's the challenging part. There were people that had sanctuaries that were doing it respectfully. You wanted to look at both sides of it, but you also had to take the responsibility to make the right judgment, to set the mind of we weren't going to do this. We weren't going to allow you to have wild animals without certain restrictions that you had to abide by. We had a facility at the Department of Ag that was built out there that took in the people that could not find places for their wild animals. They could take them to the Department of Ag. We stored them there until we could find some place to go. There are good places out there with facilities that are capable of handling these animals, and it's some place for these owners that can take their animals that they can still have a relationship with. They can still go visit. They can still go feed. I think that was important to a lot of them.
It's still there and always will be there, in your mind about it. I'm just so thankful that nobody got hurt, and it's terrible that he had to die. It's a very sad thing. All those animals are buried back there along the road where they buried them. They dug a big, put them all in there. And see, they laid them all. So that was the bad picture on the internet that made people irate, because all those animals, when you saw that scene, and the sheriff was very upset. They don't know who took those pictures, and they put them out. But but they had to put them, lay them out so they would know they had them all. And the caretaker was the one, like I said, that was counting the heads and telling them, well, yeah, we do have them all or whatever with it. But that made it a terrible scene too, because you see all of them lying there, like that. So it wasn't too nice to see. But they're beautiful animals, and you hate to see them get killed. But if you got a choice between the animals and people, you got to save the people, and that's what they did.
Exotic pets take all shapes and forms, and often the owners have an incredible and very special bond with their animals. And this is undeniably the case with Lisa.
Oh, baby monkey. You see this little itty-bitty baby. It's cute as can be. But that little itty-bitty baby is gonna tear you apart.
At no point should you ever feel complacent with a monkey you've never met before. This monkey was only after the owner's camera, but it's an intense reminder this is a wild animal.
If you buy a monkey, be prepared that you are gonna get attacked.
Lisa and Mugwhy have been friends for 24 years, a commitment that's incredibly rewarding, but also very demanding. Unless you're an educated monkey owner, you're in for a disaster.
Every single monkey bites, and it's gonna bite you, no matter what you do. So, a monkey has to be tamed, and then it can be trained. So it's a process that you have to go through, and it takes a lot of taming to become a good monkey.
When you have a good monkey, it's easy to make new friends. But if your monkey is a little wild, it may bite strangers. Many vets will only examine a monkey when it's sedated to avoid any unwelcome wounds.
When these animals hit 6 years old and start going through puberty, they can become wild, vicious, dangerous animals. The training that they've often learned, the domestication they've learned at that early age, that pretty much goes out the window, and you are dealing with literally a whole different animal.
Monkeys frequent the tourist circuit in Thailand, and they may seem super cute, but you always need to keep your guard up and pay attention to what may become aggressive behavior. Don't be deceived by their so-called friendly antics. These monkeys are wild.
A lot of these animals carry diseases that are communicable to people. They're called zoonotic diseases. And a zoonotic disease is any disease that can be transferred from pet or animal to person. And some of the diseases are quite serious. Non-human primates carry herpes and monkeypox and Ebola. So again, if you don't know what you're doing, sanitation, care, so forth, then that's something that you can take on, or a family member or a friend who's visiting because the disease is now spread around your home. You have to step back and look at all that's involved, do your research and education, depending on the pet and what's involved. The take home here is never should it be taken lightly owning an exotic pet, regardless of the size or the species.
We still have monkeys in the United States that are carrying disease. Probably only a third out of the 40,000 monkeys out there and growing each and every day, they are not vaccinated. We've been vaccinating these monkeys for years and years and years. And we do a serology test to screen everything that imaginable that they could possibly have.
This isn't a pet for someone keen on owning a low-maintenance animal. Monkeys can be a handful.
She's very calm though. She'll sit and she'll watch a movie with you, have some popcorn. She doesn't get into a lot of things. She used to when she was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So over the age of 12 to 13, then they really start to be a part of your life.
Capuchin monkeys reach maturity around 5 years, at which point their personality can become even more demanding and potentially aggressive. If you're the prime carer, you really need a lot of training to make sure the relationship stays on track.
She is 8 pounds. So that 8 pounds coming at you full force, that's a lot of monkey there. Really, seriously, it's a lot of monkey. She's strong.
A monkey on the attack is a situation to be avoided at all costs. However, for Lisa, this inherent wild animal instinct saved her life.
They're very smart, yes. I was attacked. I came home from work and I was attacked in my garage and my monkey saved my life. A man had grabbed me from behind. Inside my house, on the 2nd floor, they have their 2 monkey rooms. And if it wasn't for all 4 of them that came downstairs and attacked him, I probably wouldn't be alive today. All I gotta do is give her one sign, and it says she becomes the wild animal that everyone sees. I love her to pieces. We are 2 people that are inseparable.
Capuchins are most notably renowned as pets of organ grinders and were in fact introduced as exotic pets from their home territories of Central and Northern South America. These mischievous rascals certainly kept the audience entertained. Plus, they had the ability to carry a cup around to collect money. From this, their popularity grew for those wanting an unusual pet.
There's pros and cons where exotic pets are concerned, because our biggest problem is the caretakers and owners that own them don't have the education that they need.
Lisa has trained around 3,000 to 4,000 monkeys, often referred to as the Monkey Whisperer. Lisa is the go-to person if your monkey is misbehaving.
When I take her to train other monkeys, she helps. You know, it's great for the other monkeys to see that they can actually be loved, that they can be touched without being hurt. Or, you know, the mistakes that these owners make by using gloves and using weapons and the shock collars and things like that. I mean, it's still going on today.
Owning a monkey is a commitment for up to 30 years or more. While capuchins are the most intelligent of the New World monkeys, in the human world, they are like toddlers.
But that's how naive these people are. They think that they're humans and they can treat them as humans. But they're wild animals. They have to have a habitat. Not a little tiny bird cage, a habitat. So they can be free. They can jump, they can climb, they have things to do all the time. Muggy's surrounded by so many. You know, they need their own kind to be able to communicate, to socialize, to groom each other. That is a healthy animal in captivity. I have a huge facility. A lot of people have come to my door and dropped their monkeys off. A lot of them came that way, and all the monkeys that are there have either been injured, they've been rescued, or they've been dropped off. You have to be a very experienced person to have a primate. It's a huge responsibility. I do believe that any of the larger monkeys should not be kept as, quote, pets. But I do not call them pets, I call them companions.
These devoted companions may need a lot of ongoing training, but just like humans, they are always capable of a little monkey business.
I studied animals. I studied monkeys, their data, the brain waves, their anatomy. And because they're so human, you open her up, she's just like me. You know, so it's so beautiful, a creature that can do anything that we can do. I mean, she started my van, and her and Madeline ran it into my house in the garage. So this is how smart they really are. You know, you cannot turn your back.
Mugwhy may be a troublemaker at times, but she also knows when to be well-behaved, especially when there's the opportunity to go toy shopping for her birthday. But first, a quick sketch as a thank you gift. After all, Muggy's a very polite little monkey and doesn't want to turn up to any event empty-handed.
Her name is Mugwhy.
Mugwhy. Hi, Mugwhy.
Happy birthday.
She'll be 24.
24, that's amazing.
What?
This is for you. She painted it.
Oh, are you kidding me? That is awesome.
Outstanding.
Oh, nice.
Thank you.
That is really cool.
She painted it.
Ron may not have a monkey in his store every day, but he's certainly keen to help Muggy find the best present she's ever had.
Yeah, we're good.
Let's go shopping.
You like that one?
No interest in that one.
No? Okay.
When it comes to shopping, Muggy is a girl who knows what she wants and certainly loves all the attention.
Hey!
You want to check it out?
Come here. Come here.
Oh,
Aw, look at the little princess in her chair. Here you are. Look how cute. You got a chair.
You ready? Come on.
Let's go.
All right. We have something like this.
Try as she might, Muggy's not listening to Ron's sales pitch for these toys.
Up. Let's go.
Up, up. All right. Right here, it's like a little Jeep Wrangler. What do you think, sweetie?
Oh my goodness.
Looks like Ron has finally ticked all the boxes.
Back up. Ding, 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 ding. Ready? Let's go. One, two, three.
Are you a thrill seeker?
Thrill Seeker Yellow doesn't seem to hold as much appeal. However, the scooter looks like fun.
Okay, hang on.
Got a good grip of us?
Ready? You got a steer.
After all that adventure, it's time for a quick pit stop.
Nerds are your favorite?
Oh.
What do you think of those, baby?
Her ultimate favorite candy.
Oh, perfect.
Oh yeah.
The texture and the
Yeah.
creation and everything. I got a few more for you, Bubba.
There's a lot of controversy about owning a monkey. Not all monkeys have a great reputation, and many certainly aren't as well behaved as Mugwhy. But it seems the key is all about good parenting.
All right, sweetie, your total is $64.94. You see it right there? Yeah, that's gonna be for your new car, your new Jeep. What do you think about that? You gonna be a journey girl? You can go on journeys with Mama? All right. She's like, yeah. Yum yums?
It comes down to how well they are taken care of, and that is the big picture. I get judged every single day. But what it comes down to, when they lose control of that monkey, who do they call? You can call me names, you can say whatever you want to say, but at the end, you're going to be begging for my help. You know, and am I going to turn that person away because they were crappy to me? No, I'm going to help them because it does not matter. I don't care about them. I care about those animals. That's what really matters to me.
The Greater Wynnewood Exotic Animal Park in Oklahoma hosts some of the country's most interesting big cats and is home to star personality Joe Exotic.
Originally, I was born in Kansas, grew up in Wyoming, moved to Texas, was there 16 years, and ended up here when my brother got killed in 1997. We built this facility as a memorial to him because his dream was to go to Africa. I've been doing this 32 years now. Started actually almost 16 years before I moved here. And that's what me and my brother had, was an exotic pet store. And that was where I got my first lion, 16 years before we started it. I have built myself my own prison, because you can't leave here. I went to Walmart 3 years ago, came back and one of my staff members lost an arm.
What's your emergency? Hey, this is Bobby at the GW Zoo. I need a helicopter. I've got an employee that was attacked by a tiger, and he's hurt bad. Is it care flight, I guess? We have aerovac here. Okay. I will help them head that way, okay? Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
That's something that I never, ever want to see again. So I've never left here since.
It's a potentially fatal attraction, but Joe's captivation with predatory animals has persisted.
Animals has always been a fascination to me. I picked up sick animals when I was little and pretended I was a vet and nursed them back to health, so it's just kind of something I've been born with. The showman side. You know, it's just because I say what most people are thinking, and they're too scared to say it, and I have fun. Anything I do, you can give me a bowl of Cheerios and a glass of milk, and I can motorboat around that bowl all day long. Entertaining, I love to entertain.
'Cause I saw Tiger.
Joe's love of entertaining has led him to pursue many careers in the spotlight, which have seen him adopt the stage name of Joe Exotic. Most recently, he's combined his passion for exotic animals with his successful country music career.
Singing is kind of an escape from reality to me, and I can write songs about how I feel, the way people act, misery, happiness, and that's just something that I use for an escape.
I'm pumping iron.
Sure, he's a little eccentric, but he does have ambition. In 2016, he ran for president against Donald Trump.
I laid in bed one day during the presidential election, and, common people like you and I never get heard. That's a fact. You can vote all day long. You can send a letter. You'll never get a response, and if you do, it's a form letter. So I laid in bed one night, and I was like, how in the hell do I ever have a voice? Woke up the next morning, filled out my federal papers, signed up to run for president, and I learned more in 11 months of running for president of the United States than I did in 12 years of high school. So We gave them a run for the money. You know, people are like, you lost. I didn't lose anything. 100 million people know who I am. I got my voice out there. I got my opinions out there. I think we won a lot. Give your money away.
Joe's first love, however, has and always will be his animals.
The first time I rescued a tiger, and I still have her. She's 27 years old. That was my first real connection. And when you help something, there's a much different connection there than if you buy something and try and make it a pet. Taking unwanted abused animals, I have a whole lot more sense of being able to work with them. I'm like their savior, and they know that. We are here to educate the world, entertain people, and take care of animals. I don't like the word sanctuary. We're a zoo. We're open to the public. We buy, sell, breed, take in unwanted animals. You know, there's everything here. We have 450 plus animals. We have everything from Michael Jackson's alligators to Steve Martin's chimpanzees to just John Doe's tiger out of his backyard. We have a diverse family of animals of all kinds and people of all kinds. People ask me every day, well, you know, how do you train these tigers? I don't train my tigers. I walk among my tigers. And if they want to be petted, we pet. If they want to be loved on, we love. If they're laying over in the shade or the sun and they have their ears back and they just want to be left alone, they're left alone.
The American Veterinary Medical Foundation states that once in captivity, no wild or exotic animal species should be re-released into the environment. For many of Joe's animals, his zoo is their final home, and he believes this is the safest place for them.
The only safe place for an animal in the United States is in a cage, in a zoo, or somebody's yard that can properly care for them. Unfortunately, society in today's world won't allow even a rehabilitated animal to be turned back loose in the wild. We just had a bear in Oklahoma a couple months ago, a wild bear, come up on a lady's porch in town. I said, what do? They kill it. You know, they hunt it down and kill it because it come into town. And this is the most important thing that I hope anybody gets out of anything that I'm saying is animals in the wild have no rights. None whatsoever. We trash our oceans. We build cities in our wetlands and our mountains. We took away their habitat. But if you properly care for and you don't take away from the wild, I believe any animal that's bred in captivity, you have a right to own it as long as you take care of it.
While animals like the black bear are native to the States, other animals, such as lions and tigers, have been imported, making their care and welfare once they arrive a hot topic. The placing of exotic animals in wildlife sanctuaries and the motivation behind doing so is a highly contentious issue.
The federal government of the United States, and this is what we're working on right now, has tigers and lions on our Federal Endangered Species Act. Okay, our Endangered Species Act was designed in 1972 to protect native species of our lands. Tigers, lions, kinkajous, orangutans have no business on our endangered species list. Okay, but put them on our endangered species list, what that has done is, you know, private citizens are not allowed to possess, own, breed, interstate commerce, which means sell across state lines, anything like that. 2 months ago, you saw online that there's too many tigers in America. A month later, we put them on the Federal Endangered Species list. In the meantime, they ship a circus tiger in from Peru to America and 13 lions from another country. Somebody's got to make up their damn mind. Have we got too many in America? Do they belong on the endangered species list in America? And why are we shipping them in? Because it makes good rescue stories. We rescued a tiger from Peru, and we need to raise $33,000 to care for this damn thing. And they euthanized it 6 months later because the money train ran out.
As yet, there's no central database or requirements for exotic animal owners to record and report on the disposal of animal bodies. The recommendation is for the bodies to be cremated to ensure animal parts don't find their way onto the black market. Between 2000 and 2004, more than $100 million was made from the sale of wild animal imports, making it a lucrative business. Ever one to speak his mind, Joe considers it's the money rather than the care and protection of animals that drives many sanctuary owners in the U.S. It is a controversial opinion, and whether he is right or not is yet to be determined.
There's 2,800 registered tigers in America. There's less than 3,000 in the wild. Every sanctuary in this country is the same way. It has nothing to do with helping animals. All you have to do is take the board of directors' names and pull up their tax records of what property they own. And I'll guarantee you every one of them lives in over a $800,000 house. This ain't about animals. This is about money. Understand this. If you raise money for animals at a particular nonprofit facility, it better be spent for them animals. See, here in America, you have to be licensed by the United States Department of Agriculture and be inspected to make sure that you're taking care of everything right and following protocols and vet care and all that stuff. Only if you're open to the public. Now, if you're a sanctuary that doesn't exhibit and you're closed to the public, God only knows what's going on behind them walls. Okay, and see, that's another problem with most of these sanctuaries and these organizations is they want animals in sanctuaries with no contact. How would you like to be thrown in jail and never touched or never loved on?
As much as Joe loves his animals, they remain at heart wild and unpredictable creatures. Some of Joe's most dangerous residents are his bears, and he knows all too well the potential risk of keeping these unpredictable animals in close proximity to humans.
I've not had good encounters with bears. We actually have 4 grizzlies here and 3 black bears. They're just as personable as any other animal. Ozzy, who is our largest grizzly bear, will sit up and give you a high five and French kiss you and everything else. Ozzy came from Kansas, and back in the early 2000s when Kaylee Hildebrand was killed by a tiger getting her senior picture taken. Kansas panicked and passed some laws that made it illegal for private owners to have animals, and that's where Ozzy arrived to us from. Was a private owner who just had some exotic animals, and this bear loved that guy. And when he arrived here, he was probably 6 feet tall, standing up on his back 2 feet, and this guy walked him around the park just like it was a dog. He is 100% lovable as long as that fence is there. That is as much his security blanket as it is for our safety. I've been in with him. He's 100% different bear. He weighs about 1,400 pounds. You know, during the summertime, they eat less, they lose a little bit of weight. During the wintertime, they eat more and they put it on. For a Syrian grizzly, he's pretty large. Bears are not as predictable as a lot of animals are, in my opinion. Bears is something that I've really never specialized in working with because they're just so moody. I had a black bear at one time that we raised called Little Bear, and she grew up in the gift shop years ago. And she got out of her enclosure one day and went back to the gift shop and decided to wreak havoc in the gift shop because she was playing. You know, everything on the shelves had to come off the shelves. And I put a harness on her and went to walk her out. And bears are much different than tigers. When they lay their ears down and they do that, you're gonna get bit.
Bears may be different to tigers, but that doesn't mean tigers pose any less of a threat to Joe and his team.
There's days they don't feel good. There's days they woke up in a bad mood. Like I said, I've built myself my own prison. If people think that you do this because you're getting rich, they really need to come work here. You can't leave. I wouldn't change it for the world. I have a goal in my life, and that is to be somebody and accomplish something. And that's the way I was raised, and that's what I'm gonna do. I saw my brother killed at the age of 32 years old. I buried my first husband here at the age of 32 years old, and I'm gonna leave this world leaving my mark. I've dealt with so much death in my life, and life's too short to get tied at. So my personality is, I laugh all the time.
They have a very strong compressive bite. They have the capacity to lacerate your skin and bite parts of you off.
Wolves are natural predators, and working with them is not for the faint-hearted. Chris Edrington from Steve Martin's Working Wildlife trains wolves for film and television.
We supply animals for the entertainment industry. I used to call it the film industry, but that's sort of antiquated. It's work in front of a camera where someone is paying us to film an animal that's part of content that somebody else is selling. I would say 90% of the work that I personally do is in front of a camera that way. Marc, stay. Stay. Good boy. Depending on the economy, sometimes 10% of the work or more will be event related. America's funny that people have disposable income, and somebody occasionally wants a lion at their party, or a wolf, or a baby animal of some kind. These are gray or timber wolves, and name is interchangeable. They come in different colors, dark like these two, or gray like the other one who's wandering around. We have one that's sort of a lighter color too. These particular guys, their bloodline is from North America.
Chris's most famous animal pupils starred in the iconic movie Dances with Wolves. The movie's wolf character, Two Socks, was actually played by two different wolves, Buck and Teddy, who looked so similar only their trainers could tell them apart.
Those wolves lived here. The owner actually had to double the actor Kevin Costner for a couple scenes where they interacted. This group of wolves here, we've done True Blood, Vampire Diaries, Teen Wolf. We did 3 seasons of Game of Thrones, and then a bunch of other movies.
Chris has worked with a variety of dangerous animals, and while he makes them seem quite safe and friendly, wolves remain wild predators.
I've enjoyed everything I work with. I work a little bit with our tiger. It's a solitary animal, and I like it, but I like these guys a lot. They give you love. All animals show some emotion, but wolves show love more than any other animal. You'd have to be devoid of a consciousness not to see that and see how they show that to you. It's quite wonderful. Hello, my love. Come on. Come here.
Training wolves is about making the animals familiar with the human world rather than teaching them clever tricks.
Quite frankly, as an animal trainer, I find I don't spend so much time training an animal, but habituating it to the odd things that occur in society. And on a movie set, we have booms and flags and all sorts of things that aren't natural, so we have to get our animals used to that. We have to get them used to loading in a truck or a trailer or whatever cage if we have to go on an airplane. And we try to make that so it's normal and not stressful.
Going into a pen with wolves is dangerous, and no matter how close an owner is to their animals, there will always be a risk.
The two black guys here are a part of an older group. When we got them, we had a lot of film projects at the time, and they worked a lot, and we just happened to build a really good rapport. The other wolf, he's just 2, and so he hasn't worked quite as much, and I don't have as good a rapport with him as these guys. I can still work with him. If a filmmaker wants to shoot with him, we'll go do whatever we have to. But these guys have known me better, and I've done more with them, and we've traveled more places. And they're older, too, so they know that I'm the source of fun more. He's a young punk. In a couple more years, he might be standing over here because he knows that the rubs are good, and maybe we'll go for a walk out into the universe.
Dog trainer and canine behavioral specialist Michael Chill is known for his expertise with wolves and wolf behavior.
Dogs absolutely evolved from wolves, and they share 99.9% of the same genetic makeup. They can interbreed and make fertile offspring, so that's really, from a species perspective, that proves a close relation. Our adult dogs have the similar behavior to a 5-month-old wolf. Our adult dogs are social with strange dogs, typically, are still eager to learn, have a prey drive, but not a serious enough one to really do that much hunting and killing. Our wolves evolve beyond that. Once they become adults, they will accept their own family members, but they're highly aggressive to outside wolves with which they are unfamiliar. They are quite adept predators. They're highly territorial. So when we then go back to the wild to try to redo this and take a wild animal into captivity, we do not have in a wolf a dog with an exotic look. We have a wild predator.
Despite the dangers, extreme animal owners often push the envelope.
Hello, baby boy.
And not only do R.C. and Sharon Bridges keep a bison as a pet, they also keep and breed wolves and wolf dogs.
We do sell our wolves. You know, we have so many people that really enjoy them. And a lot of them, they do make house pets out of them. We have lots of happy customers.
And one person said, "You can't keep a wolf in the house," and Sharon replied back, "We keep a buffalo in our house."
Yeah.
Don't tell me we can't keep a wolf in the house.
Yeah.
The most worried I was one time, we had wolf puppies. And of course, when they're born, the mamas are real protective. And she come running, and I knew I was fixing to get tore up by her, because she'd been real aggressive toward me ever since she had the puppies. And when she come after me, I grabbed her and threw her on the ground and held her down. And then she was growling and stuff, but anyway, I just backed off and she was fine.
Wolves live by a strict and ruthless social order, and owners must establish themselves as the pack leader or risk a vicious alpha challenge.
R.C., of course, as the dominant male of the family, he takes charge, and whenever he feels like he's comfortable with me jumping in, because he won't let me jump in and do anything without his okay first.
The way we do them, we keep 2 to 3 in a pen, and we never have any problem with them. We do have an alpha problem occasionally, and I got rid of a female lately because she was causing too many fights.
I raise these guys, and because of how I've worked with them, I think they view me as the top dog. They live in a sort of interesting structure. Biologists tell us that an alpha male and an alpha female will form. And basically what that means is the dominant pair will be the only one that will be allowed to breed. And nature is really cruel. Sometimes the other ones breed, but if they have a successful litter, the alpha male and female will just kill it. The way we raise them, these are very nice, but they're still... You can't take the jungle out of the boy. Nature designs them to be a certain way, and they're wild animals. Therein lies the difference between a domestic dog and this wolf. Even though this guy is just rolling on his back and I'm rubbing his belly, he's still a dangerous animal.
With a bite that can break bones, wolves may look just like exotic dogs, but can they make good pets?
I work with them all the time. I see them every day. No, they're horrible pets.
I would never bring one to my house because I know they would be enthralled by my leather couch and they would perforate it with holes. They would rip up my carpet. They would tear down my blinds. I have faith that they would do that. I might be able to get them not to do that when I'm there, but if I walk away, I have faith that they will completely destroy everything when I'm not there. Conversely, when I've had domestic dogs, I train them so that I could trust them. We've basically trained our wild animals not only to behave, but just to be able to convey safely around society. But yeah, no, the wild animals I work with, I would never recommend as having as a pet.
Well, personally, for me and RC both, for us, I think it's great. But it's, with these kind of animals, it's not meant for just anybody to pick up and say, okay, I want to make them a pet. You have to be really dominant. You have to be their leader. If you're not going to be top charge, then no, then they're not going to be safe for a pet.
In spite of the danger, many, including RC and Sharon, still believe that a 100-pound predator can make a good house pet.
We bring all the wolves in the house. You know, we play with them, take pictures with them. Certain ones we'll let the grandkids play with. There's some of them that we won't let the grandkids play with. Ours make a good pet. Just like all animals, depending on how they're raised from beginning, really, is what makes good pets.
When I got in the wolf business, I thought I had a mean animal coming to me. And it wound up being the sweetest animal I've ever been around. And we always hear the stories about the big bad wolf. They're just unbelievably a gentle animal. I do think they're dangerous when you let them run in a pack.
I find you get what you put out. Conversely, if you have a child, a human, and you put it in a closet and 10 years later open the door, what are you gonna have? If you have a bear or a lion or a wolf and you raise it appropriately and you get it used to the trappings of humanity and you take it everywhere and you teach it things and you love it, you will have a great animal that's capable of safely operating with other people in human society.
Don't let their looks deceive you. Wolves may resemble the family dog, but they are an apex predator, capable of taking down large prey and causing serious physical injury and even death.
If you're going to house a wolf and they were able to live in a wilderness area and come back to visit, but they certainly weren't put in a captive situation, that's kind of ideal. My wolves became my wolves because people thought they could turn them into dogs with proper training and found out the hard way, doesn't work. You cannot train a wolf to be a dog.
The debate about whether circuses keeping exotic animals in captivity is right or wrong is gathering momentum. And circuses themselves are in a situation where they're having to consider their future and how their life could change. Regardless of your position on the subject, circuses are still traveling from town to town, entertaining enthusiastic audiences. Would that all change if the exotic animals were no longer there? Jan is the matriarch of the Stardust Circus, which tours around Australia with exotic animals as part of the show. Her family has been working with the animals for generations.
Really a family affair, the whole circus. There are 28 people on, counting all the babies, of course.
This circus is family-run, and most of them have grown up working with exotic animals. It's a life they've always known, and they treat their animals as part of their family.
It's a pretty good life, really.
But what's it like to work in a circus with exotic animals?
We have the only 2 remaining circuses in Australia now with exotic animals, and we have both. We have 6 lions, 5 monkeys, and that's all in the way of exotics. The others are pigs, goats, dogs, horses. These animals have been born and bred in captivity, so they don't know any other life. So it's not like they've been plucked from the wild and suddenly they're, living this life. It's not that at all. And people don't seem to understand that. They seem to like the life they've got. I guarantee that. The wild isn't as great as what people make it out to be either.
In the wild, a lion can live up to 14 years. But at the circus, the lions can live up to 25 years without the stresses that come from living in their natural habitat.
Yeah, we treat them like family. They are our family. When we move to each place, they come first. They're set up before anything else. So to make sure they've got all their comforts of home, and even to the point if it's a hot day, the lions have their air conditioners turned on, and if not, they lay out in their yard and snooze all day, and they have a bit of a life of luxury here. They don't do any hard work of any sort. And they don't have to worry about where their next meal's coming from.
The circus is regularly inspected by the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals to ensure they comply with all the necessary regulations.
A lot of councils have banned the grounds for exotics because the animal liberationists tell them so many lies about what we do to our animals, which doesn't happen at all. And they can make up some doozies of, believe me, some of the stories they tell them. And God, we'd be in jail if we did half of what they tell them.
Jan has bred several lions over the life of the circus, which has provided an interesting story to the taxman.
We had cubs living in a caravan. They had a little bed under the table. And I'd say to them, righto, go to bed. I had some paperwork on the table. And my husband had the tax return sitting on there. Well, it fell down under the table and it got all chewed up by the cubs. We had to send it in like it was, put it in with a little note that these were chewed up by lions, you see. And so I was singing afterwards. I bet they thought, no, we've heard everything now, every excuse in the book. This one will take the cake.
Public safety and the safety of the lions is a high priority for the circus. And there's a double fence around the lions area for added protection.
We have barricades around and all that, and the lions do get locked away at night. We have security right around them with the caravans, so our own people are there all the time, 24 hours a day. And we very rarely ever have anybody come around that want to get in with the lions. If they do, they probably get eaten. No, I'm joking. They'll probably lick them to death.
The lions can be found lazing about in a large fenced-off grassed area to the rear of the big top, oblivious to the debate surrounding them. With social change, circuses are now under intense pressure from animal welfare groups that say it's cruel to keep animals in captivity, that they shouldn't be kept in small cages.
This is the cages that they can't turn around in. They're not big enough, aren't they, Glenn? They can't turn around in these. Cramped up in this. Some of it's funny. If it wasn't so stupid, it'd be funny, but they come out with some weirdo things.
These lions have lived like this since they were born at the circus. They have never been in the wild, so this is the only life they know. They are well looked after and safe from other predators and human encroachment to their natural habitat. Matt has worked with the lions since they were cubs, so they have built up an amazing level of trust. He spends up to an hour a day with them, training and the occasional cuddle. You can sense Matt has a special bond with his lions. His partner, Winona, is well aware of the dangers Matt faces every time he goes into the ring with the cats.
I feel like he's pretty safe, but it still is a bit of a worry. They are lions, so, you never really know. Hopefully he's aware at all times of what's going on, so they do love him, but, sometimes you just never know with animals.
Matt has total respect for the lions in his care, and he knows when he enters the training area, there are 6 lions moving around him. He knows he can never drop his guard around these powerful predators.
When you're working with lions, especially if there's more than one in a cage, you need to make sure you know where they all are at all times. You need to know what they're looking at and where their focus is on. Their body language is a big thing, so the ears twitching and tail twitching, stance, if they're ready to pounce, if they're not ready to pounce, pretty relaxed. So you just got to watch their eyes. Their eyes is a big thing. Usually you can tell from their eyes what they're thinking. So he's pretty relaxed. He's just watching Bart over there at the moment. But they're all pretty good. They all have their own personalities and moods, and Sometimes they're in a good mood and sometimes they're not, and as long as you are paying attention, it's pretty safe.
Hello, boy. He's beautiful.
There is a lot of trust between the lions and Jan. Putting your hand inside a lion's cage is something that Jan doesn't recommend.
I wouldn't let any strangers do that. We know them pretty well and how far you could go with them. If they were not in a really flash mood, I wouldn't do it, but that's very rare. But now and again, just the other two bigger males will have a bit of a barney with each other about who's going to be the boss of the females. They are beautiful, gentle animals, and you would probably trust any animal, no more than about 95%, but they're just like a dog even. Who knows if a dog could ever turn.
So far, the lions have been relaxed, but there is a change in mood in the training area between two of the males, and we get a glimpse of what lions are capable of.
There's always that very, very, very slight chance, very slight. But so far, they've been really good. Hey! So what I mean, they're gonna have a barney over the girl that. Hey! Stop it! Oi! Stop it! Oi! Hey! Stop it! Stop it! I have a little barney every now and again. They don't do any damage to each other. Just for something to do, I think.
After the dust has settled and the brief altercation is over, the victor lies next to the female, while the jilted male looks across. Today, mating season has a winner and a loser.
He's a pretty good-natured lion, Hulk is. Very, very calm and relaxed usually. Not much scares him, so that's always a good thing. Some lions are very jumpy, which makes it hard to work with. Usually if they're like this, it's fine, but it doesn't mean it's going to stay like that. Something could get their attention out there and they could just run to chase that, or someone could bite him on the bum while I'm playing with him. So I've got to be ready for everything. You right there, buddy? You right there, bud? You right there, mister? Yeah, you big goofball. You big goofball, hey? Yeah, you big goofball.
Not everyone agrees that keeping exotic animals in captivity is good for the animals. But Jan maintains they have a good life and are treated as part of the family.
Well, this is their air conditioning unit, so on a very hot day, the air conditioning goes on, so they're, boom, up into there and sprawled out. They've got little ledges and shelves up in there too that they sleep on. They like to go high.
We hand raise them. They live in Glenn's caravan for the first 6 months. My wife can't handle the smell. So Glenn gets the first 6 months, which is waking up at 3 in the morning to bottle feed, and it's just like having a baby. And then they start tearing up the furniture. And the first probably year we trained out here in the yard just to get all the basics down, like staying on the pedestal and stuff like that. So we train out here so anybody can come and watch. Every day, it's just playtime in here. Here's just neutral ground, in there I'm the boss, we do the jobs, and out here is playtime, so. Kitty. It's all reward-based, so they know what to do, and they're always wanting to do it before I ask them to, instead of waiting for their turn. So they really want to do it. It's just getting them to wait is the hard bit. So they eat out of my hand, usually some nice fresh horse or something. And if they're full, they don't want it, and if they're too hungry, they'll take your hand with it. So you got to sort of keep them at that stage where they're not hungry, but they're not too full to eat.
You can never underestimate the power of one of the largest felines in the world. In the wild, they work together to hunt their prey. Lionesses do most of the hunting for the pride, each having different roles and working together efficiently to bring down their prey, using their vice-like jaw to snap the victim's neck and drag it to the ground. The lions might be the resident stars of the circus, but the rhesus macaque monkeys are another exotic that looks cute at first sight, but can attack if they don't know you.
Oh, it's beautiful boys. It's a beautiful boy. He's your beautiful boy. The two in this cage are the youngest two that we've got. But they don't take kindly to strangers. They're not an animal that anyone could get in with or anything. Don't get too close to them. They'll grab your glasses off. They're a bit naughty. Especially the people they don't know, more so.
We have 5 now. 2 of them really love me. The other 3, they like me, but not as much as the 2. I have trained Cleo to do hand balancing, so I work Cleo in the show.
Some might say it's cruel to make animals perform tricks, but they are never forced to do them. And if they don't want to do it, they'll soon let their trainer know.
They do bite, but everyone knows when they're out, just to make sure they keep away from the people who can't handle them.
According to Matt, Reese's macaque monkeys are charismatic, but they also have a vicious streak. So you need to think on your feet when working with them.
So you just got to sort of work with whatever they're willing to put out. They have a short attention span also, so you can't work too long with them. So when you're training, you do a couple of minutes here, a couple of minutes there, and they'll tell you when they're fed up, and so you move on to something else. They get bored pretty quick. This is Cleo. She's an 11-year-old rhesus macaque. She's the baby. The monkeys are good. There's always like a attitude from them, so it gives you something to deal with. And they only like a couple of people usually, so they get attached to a couple of people, and everybody else is sort of, you know, fair game. Cleo here is she's pretty smart. She knows how to undo the clip on her collar. So sometimes in the show when we have to, in between tricks, she just has to wait. And sometimes if you're not watching, she'll unclip herself, go to the table, get a treat, and then head back home, put herself away again. Millie, the one in here that stays with Cleo, she's got a lot of attitude. She's willing to attack anybody, really. She's just full on. Family more than pets. Yeah, they're part of the family. They get all the best of everything.
The average macaque can grow up to 2 feet high and weigh up to 15 pounds. It's a small package, but when aggressive, nasty bites and the risk of disease are consequences of getting too close.
Well, they're not really wild. They've been with us their whole life, but there is still the instinct in there. Animals don't think like humans. You know, that's where the people go wrong. Animals have their own thought processes and their own way of doing things. So to us, like something we would think is nice, they think is you just letting them do whatever they want.
It's showtime, and the exotics are preparing to make an appearance to their adoring public. There are preparations that need to happen in the ring to make sure everyone is safe.
Would you please welcome here into the Steel Arena, Star Circus, Australian-born and bred, Performing Lions!
Jan and her family enjoy sharing these animals with the public. But today's circuses are finding themselves going through a transition, deciding if they will continue including exotic animals as part of the show or need to bend to the pressures of social change to stop keeping animals in cages. These could be the last of the lions at this circus. They will not be breeding any more of them, so once these unique animals have retired, it is unlikely there will be any bred lions thrilling the audience. Time will tell as to how circuses with exotic animals will evolve under the big top in the years to come. Located in the San Bernardino Mountains of Southern California, the small city of Big Bear Lake is a popular holiday destination. The region draws thousands of tourists, and its picturesque surroundings have been used as locations for many Hollywood classics, including Daniel Boone, Gone with the Wind, and even Disney's Old Yeller. But Big Bear Lake is also known as the location of a much more shocking filming project. The tranquil mountains of Big Bear are a world away from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. They're also home to the well-known Hollywood animal trainer and stuntman, Randy Miller. Randy's company, Predators in Action, specializes in location and studio-trained exotic animals.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely built Predators in Action with no fear. We still do push the envelope, but back in the day, we really pushed the envelope. And I mean in every way. It could be a stunt, doing a staged attack, or even just a simple model shoot with a tiger crawling on a girl that the cat's never seen before. We did things back then we probably wouldn't do today.
Drawn to animals from a young age, Randy's family was in the seltzer business, and during the 80s, he helped turn the family business into a $100 million a year company. He lived an extravagant lifestyle and used his successful business fortune to indulge his childhood dream of owning big cats, bears, and other exotic animals.
Back in the day, I had great resources to, accommodate these types of animals and to just to get the permits and permission to have them. Basically have them with me wherever I go. And that's really what I did. We built a house in the Hollywood Hills with a 3-story glass cage. It was designed, for big exotic animals. I didn't have any animals live there full time. I had a place out in the desert where I kept all my animals. And I used to bring them in to visit while I was in Hollywood, just so I could always have my animals around.
When the family business went bankrupt, Randy was forced to find another way to both earn a living and keep his dangerous pets. He turned his eccentric hobby into a career and began supplying big cats, grizzly bears, and wolves for big-budget Hollywood movies and high-rating TV shows. His signature stunt was a staged attack, where his animals staged realistic but harmless attacks. He created a unique and potentially life-threatening product.
My staged attack was not taught. Nobody teaches you that. It was developed back in those days, like in that house with that glass cage. I used to wrestle my animals and play with them. I mean, the reason I used to wrestle and play with my animals was because of the joy I got out of it and the fun it was. But the animals bond so much stronger when you have that kind of interaction. They just do. I mean, the key to an animal's heart is to play and have fun. And those lions and tigers, bears, they love to wrestle and play. So I think most of us wrestle and play with younger animals. As they get older, it becomes much more dangerous. My whole staged attack developed out of playing with these animals as they matured and just learning how to control it.
Years of high-risk training with ferocious carnivores yielded the ultimate Hollywood payoff when Miller won a Stunt Academy Award for his role as Russell Crowe's stunt double during the tiger attack scenes in the blockbuster movie Gladiator.
Once I focused on doing film work with these animals, and I really focused on training them to be in movies, that's what we were training for, was that scene, not even knowing it. But I mean, I would say our whole career put us there. That tiger was raised its whole life to play out all that action you see in that scene. The lunging, the jumping, the snarling, and that staged attack. I got bit on that show. There were a lot of staged attack scenes, and it required a lot of takes, over and over. Attacks from the back, attacks from the front. While filming one of those attack scenes, Tara, the tiger I was using, ended up grabbing the wardrobe, which was leather. So she grabbed it And, you know, she got possessive over it, is what happened. And she ended up biting. She tried to take it from me, and she bit through it and put a hole in my arm. So at that time, they cut and said, hey, we got it, done. Went, undressed, got out of wardrobe. They bandaged up my arm. And then a PA comes in and says, hey, the main camera broke. We don't know when the film actually broke, so we got to go out and refilm all that. Like the special effects camera. They got me back out there. They put a steel plate over the wound, and we started doing it again. And the only reason I was able to continue doing that attack after getting bit pretty bad was I understood why she bit me. You know, she wasn't really biting me. She didn't go after me out of anger. She went after the wardrobe and got possessive over it.
Between 1990 and 2011, there were over 300 incidents involving captive big cats in the U.S. 20 people were killed. Over the same time, captive bears killed 6 and injured 61. Working alongside predators is never 100% safe for the humans involved. American Humane is responsible for making sure that the work is safe for the animals.
Our job is really just to make sure it's done well. Our primary mission is to oversee, basically police, the care, the safety, the humane treatment of the animals while they're on set. The others want to debate whether it's philosophically okay to use these animals. So when I'm asked, you know, should these animals be used, look, we could sit here for 3 hours, 4 hours, and probably not arrive to a decent answer. But when I tell you, look, my job is to make sure that the animals that are participating, are being used in these environments, are cared for properly, that is really our job and our mission.
Big cats, grizzly bears, and wolves are popular movie stars, and they're all capable of removing human limbs in seconds. Even a monkey can cause serious lacerations and injury. Strict safety protocols are always in place, but when dealing with unpredictable natural predators, safety measures aren't always 100% effective.
You know, on the good sets, in my experience, on the controlled film sets that hire the right people, who care for their animals, who've had the time, put in the time to train them properly and go through all the preventative measures. In instances like that, I think it's very safe. I think it's very controlled and safe. Now, as it often is, it comes down to hiring the right people, right? Getting the right team around you. Because if you get someone who doesn't have the experience, you're gonna be in trouble.
One thing with my line of work, we have developed one of the best safety protocols there is. I mean, you need a fast plan if something goes wrong. And we all learned, even with that, the ultimate price can get paid, you know? These animals are capable of taking somebody's life in a matter of seconds. So in my position, knowing that, anybody handling these animals, not just owning these animals, but working around these animals, should have the education and experience to participate in stopping or helping save somebody's life if there's an accident or an attack taking place.
Many exotic pet owners raise their animals from babies, building a strong bond and creating a sense of trust. It can be easy to forget that such majestic and affectionate creatures can also be ruthless killers.
There could be a false sense of security there where you believe it's safer than it really is.
Fire department emergency, how can I? Hi, Brian, I'm with the transfer. She's at Onyx Summit. We're at Rainbow Lane. Off Rainbow Lane. He's bleeding from his neck heavily. Hold on, ma'am. She's at Onyx Summit off of Rainbow Lane. There's a bear. We think it's an animal attack. Okay. Yes, or a bear attack. A bear attack.
Until you've experienced, you know, what can happen, how fast things can change, you don't really have a clue. You know, and unfortunately, it takes a tragic, you know, accident to really experience what I'm talking about.
A bear attack, okay. He's bleeding heavily from his neck. We're trying to get him into the car. We need someone here immediately.
And, you know, you do this long enough, You know, I know people that have been doing this for generations, and you talk to guys that have been doing this for a long time, you know, we've all experienced something.
In 2008, Randy's cousin, Stephen Miller, was fatally wounded while shooting a promotional video at Randy's Big Bear property. Stevie's co-star and killer was a 700-pound, 7.5-foot grizzly bear named Rocky. The attack was swift and completely unexpected.
We weren't ready for what happened. That's how fast it is. That's how fast it can happen. I mean, if you actually time it, once it started, it was like 3.5 seconds. It all happened really fast. So we stopped it, and actually Stevie appeared to be okay. We later learned it was a fatal bite, one single bite.
5-year-old Rocky had been trained to wrestle humans and was best known for his appearance as Dewey the Killer Bear in the 2008 film Semi-Pro.
Stevie wanted to wrestle Rocky. You know, he'd had experience in the past. Rocky was a great candidate for wrestling somebody that, you know, wasn't doing it all the time. The authorities deemed it an accident based on the injuries. They could tell by the injuries what type of attack or bite took place. They ruled it a single bite in Rocky's case.
Although that single bite left a profound scar on Randy, incredibly, he still lives with and cares for Rocky the Bear.
A lot of people love animals and say they love animals, but some people, like myself, love them so much they have to be with them. And I think that's the difference. You know, it's easy for somebody to criticize what we do, but they may not have that same desire. I know from experience, I have that desire. That's more important to me than anything else. Keeping my animals, caring for my animals' welfare. I mean, that's what got me into what I do. You know, it really is. It started out as a hobby, and it turned into a profession. You hear about an animal that attacks somebody that had never, you know, had an incident in the past until that moment. And that was the moment with Rocky.
Working so closely with these types of animals, owners develop a close relationship with an animal that, in the wild, would see them as prey. Perhaps surprisingly, American Humane's Quan Stewart sees that bond as beneficial for the animals too.
This gets into a very big ethical debate. You know, should these exotics be in film? And, you know, if you have the right people with the right expertise, it can provide the right long-term care for these animals. Yes, I think it's okay. A lot of these animals are domesticated at a very young age. They're used to human contact. They enjoy human contact.
I mean, there's a reward there, you know, especially with a creature that could take your life in a matter of seconds. You know, maybe part of that starts, you know, from the adrenaline rush you get with it, but there's a lot more to it than that. There really is. You know, these animals do show affection. And exotic cats, I've always said, are the most affectionate creatures on Earth. And they are. They will sit with you for hours showing affection. I mean, they're moody, and that's what makes them dangerous. It's kind of like a dog, you know, where they're very friendly and fun. And it usually takes a while before you see their instincts come out, but eventually they will. And all these animals get possessive, and it might be something you didn't see until that moment. And when they get like that, it doesn't matter how much they love you, they'll kill you over anything. It's just in their instincts. It's just in their DNA.
Today, Randy remains close to his collection of unusual and dangerous pets. 7 big cats and several bears, including Rocky.
I can tell you this, if you put somebody near one of these animals, there is a chance something could go wrong. There is.